I think the biggest deficit that team had last year was quarterback. And to get Sam Hartman is such an upgrade over anything they had last year. People maybe don't watch Wake Forest. Sam Hartman's really good. And Notre Dame's going to have a classically good offensive line. They're going to have a good defense. They're going to have good special teams. I still have questions about the coaching in the post-Brian Kelly era. Post-Brian Kelly era. But in terms of weaknesses on this team, I don't know preseason, pre-flop what the weakness is. They look really good, and I think I saw a stat, I might have even sent it to you, Ryan, that like 70% of the college playoff odds handle at BetMGM is on Notre Dame to make the playoff. Of all bets, 70% of the handles on Notre Dame. That seems a bit much to me, but I do think they're going to be really good. And Navy obviously can't simulate what Notre Dame is going to do in their practices. So I do think I would lay the 20.5, and it's obviously a big deal for this to move from 21.5 down to 20.5. Can I tell you the team I did bet to win the NFC, and it's not the NFC East?
Yes.
I have so much stock in this team. I have 5 different futures bets, and they're all over the board, but one of them is to win the NFC. I'm going to say the name, and you're going to gasp a little bit, but let me set it up for you. I bet the Falcons at 30-1 to win.
Now we're best friends.
Wow.
Okay. Now, it's not.
Were you sober when you did this?
I was dead sober.
Okay.
Tell them why, Chase.
It's not because I think the Falcons are going to win the NFC, right? It's pure hedge setup. I would be shocked if the Falcons won the NFC, but I do think I don't think people realize how good the offensive line is. I don't think people realize how good Bijan Robinson is. You got Arthur Smith, who wants to run the ball. They play in a really weak division. I think there's a chance that the Falcons are like a ridiculously overwon 13-4 or 14-3 team, like where they're nowhere near as good as their record is, but they slide into that number 1 seed. They get the dumb bye. They get a home divisional game. You blink and you're like, the Falcons are in the NFC Championship game? What are we doing here? And then you hedge out and buy the other team that's clearly better than the Falcons.
I mean, there's a lot of good that's going to come with this offense, first off, because the players they've said it the nice way and kind of taking shots at Greg Roman on the way out, like, now we get to do this. There was talk of the plays coming in late, so Lamar couldn't change the play at the line of scrimmage and audible. There were talks of, did they like this system? Did they want to get away from it? Lamar wants to throw the ball more, and now you bring in weapons, and they finally actually do have some real weapons here, so why not? Why don't we see more 3-set wide receivers or even 4-set if they could split Mark Andrews out wide? I think this team has more first-round wide receivers on the roster than any other team in the league, which is kind of funny with some of the names that are here. But, I do think this offense is going to be more centered around Lamar making reads, making plays, and throwing the football. It's kind of weird if you look at the numbers in Vegas, right, where they're saying his over-unders are right around 500 and so yards. You might get like 550 some places. And then you're looking at another situation, too, with his touchdowns. I think the red zone targets are going to be important in how often he's targeted on third down. But I know we're going to get to it. Clearly, the talk of camp's been Zay Flowers. But I think Beckham's look good. I was out there the day of the inter-squad scrimmage with Washington, I got Tuesday last week, and got to see, ones versus ones there. Zay Flowers was cooking a lot of dudes, including that first-round pick of the Commanders, Nick.
Shh, we don't talk about that. Never happened.
But and Odell Beckham had a couple of really nice plays, a few nice catches on the sideline. I don't think the season goes along like expecting these explosive plays, but like right now, looking at him, he still looks really good. I do think by the end of the year, you're gonna be like, yeah, they really overpaid for him. But at that point in time, what were you gonna do? And not knowing what was going on with Lamar and who you were gonna take in the draft.
Other than the Marlon Humphrey injury, which, we expect him to come back, what's your biggest concern with the defensive side of the ball coming into the season?
So I think it goes hand in hand with cornerback and pass rush. I mean, the Marlon Humphrey thing, the cornerbacks weren't necessarily a concern. We wondered about depth. There were people questioning Rock Ya-Sin, saying he hasn't looked all that great thus far. But there's been nagging injury after nagging injury at the cornerback position. Guys consistently going down. Pepe, you saw Ardarius last night take a hit, but it looks like some of this stuff is really nagging and not like long term. The other thing is pass rush. Like Justin Houston added up a bunch of sacks and was kind of compiling at the beginning of the year. I don't want to take away from what he was doing, but he really faded down the stretch. They don't bring him back. You're hoping Ajabo can step in and be that guy, and they've been waiting for Owe to kind of shine. I mean, they signed Jadeveon Clowney, but I think they're going to use him more as a run stuffer and in different ways along the defensive line. So I think pass rush, it's a terrible thing to say when you think your defense is going to be really good and you're worried about pass rush and cornerbacks, but at least you get the Texans in week 1.
All right, let's look at this AFC North as a whole here. I mean, the Bengals are the favorite, depending on where you're looking, around like plus 150. Ravens sit about plus 225, 235. You got the Browns behind them, and then the Steelers coming in fourth, which is just crazy to see after all the years that we've had. But this division, to me, may end up being the best and toughest division in football when it's all said and done. But is it crazy to look at the Ravens and say they have enough to overcome the Bengals and win this division? And are we also maybe overlooking the Browns, given the fact that we talked about them a couple of years ago being just a quarterback away, if Deshaun Watson can look like the Deshaun Watson that he was in 2020?
We got a lot of ifs here, but they're not like really crazy ifs. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a homer by any stretch. I told you this before. I'd bet against my mom in a fist fight if I got better odds on the other gal. Like, I do think the Ravens are a live 2-1 dog. Would you say plus 220 to win this division? You've already seen the stuff that's gone on with Joe Burrow and the calf. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not going to continue on. But they've had 2 good seasons now with no significant injuries. And I'm not wishing injury upon them, but we've seen stuff like this happen. And I think they lost some of their depth in the offseason. I think Cleveland's a little bit more live than what people think. I think there's a really good chance that Deshaun Watson, I mean, if he doesn't have to look like Deshaun Watson in Houston. He just can't look like Deshaun Watson last year in Cleveland. He's got to look a little bit better than that, and I think he has some weapons now. So I'm a little bit more bullish on them than some, and Pittsburgh's always around 500. It would not shock me to see, or they've always been above 500 at least. It wouldn't shock me to see everyone in this division kind of competing and somebody pull away at the end, but I do think the Ravens are going to win the division.
I think the Browns are the whole division is slanted toward the Bengals, right? So there's kind of value everywhere else away from Cincinnati. I think the Browns are totally slept on. 375 was the number last I saw. I would absolutely take that. I would take the Steelers. They're over their win total, which is currently 8.5.
Yes, I love that.
I would throw a dart on top of the win total for the Steelers to win the division at 450. I like Baltimore so much with all the changes they've made and Todd Monken as OC. I took a flyer. One of the 20 NFL futures was Baltimore to finish with the number 1 seed in the AFC because I think so highly of them, and they were on track to get it last year before everything fell apart. I think it could easily happen again this year, even in a tough division.